What is going on? Welcome to ednews.com. It's your host, EJ Carrion, and today we're going to talk about video game addiction and the impact it has on students. Now, this wasn't something I saw in the news that was in the education tab, and people were discussing what are schools doing about video game addiction. But I think it's something that was happening that I was seeing in just general news and international news. And it made me think about what kind of supports and how do we think about game addiction here in America. Because even though during the pandemic, obviously students are dealing with so much more than just the learning loss or catching up with school. You're dealing with the depression and all the needs around mental health. But what we've also seen that they use to cope with that is video games, and with coping with video games could lead to addiction. And so that is something that I think as we think about, especially the language around video games and if video games are addicting, changing. So I want to dive into an Economist article that really just kind of hits 2 points home on the rise of the discussion of gaming as a disorder, but then also diving into a recent article in the Financial Times around the demands for clinics to deal with and help students manage game addiction. So let's go ahead and dive in. So what you're going to see here is the Economist article, and let me go ahead and kind of let you see the whole thing. So the World Health Organization on January 1st, in their latest edition of the International Classification of Diseases, a manually widely used by health insurance firms, for the first time recognizes an affliction it calls gaming disorder. It is tempting to dismiss all this just another moral panic about it as a form of entertainment. 20 years ago, games were condemned for making players violent when there was no evidence to do so. But the argument matters, and not just in parents who exacerbated by their offspring's preference for Fortnite over math or old-fashioned social interaction. Newzoo, a consulting, pits global video games revenue at $170 billion in 2020, far ahead of music, cinema, which is and still growing quickly. So, the idea of computer games being addictive, you can also argue that it has to do with the coping piece, and I think that is what I saw really interesting here. At least half of those with a gaming problem had a depressive disorder as well, and another third was dealing with anxiety. So it's a little chicken and the egg when it comes to dealing with game addiction. But what are we doing? And I'm curious. I mean, I've heard of centers and spaces to assist with gaming addiction, but it just seems something that's becoming a big topic because China's recent rules on managing young people's time with gaming, and then with the World Health Organization now really coming out there and talking about it as a disorder similar to gambling. Let's go ahead into the Financial Times article as well. It says UK's first gaming addiction center swamped by demand during a pandemic. Over a third of patients are stuck on the wait list after referrals double in a year. I would imagine that's no different as a first world economy. I have no different that this demand would be with us as well. Something that they showed around is that 70% of those were under 18 and 90% were male. So those are things that were that they also kind of posted. And the kind of last piece here that I thought was interesting too is that even though the Oxford Internet Institute did a research on 1,000 British 14 and 15-year-olds, they found no link between playing video games and aggressive behavior, although research says games could provoke angry feelings or reactions. Now, here's the thing. I share this with you I feel like this is ad news in a way that, what are some trends and discussions and things we got to prepare for? And when we look at the pandemic, we talked about increasing mental health services. And I think we would imagine that due to this time, students' addiction to games have also increased. And you're even seeing apps like Robinhood who has had to remove some of their gamification because they said that it was making young people addicted to gambling or investing in stocks, which they were saying it was a piece of gambling because it was irresponsible money that they couldn't afford. And so not only is it something we should be thinking about as counselors and mental health support providers, but also as an industry, the ed tech industry, who really focuses on gamification to learning. How do we provide healthy gaming standards to learning, but not really influencing or creating an addiction for students on our platforms? So really interested to hear your take on how the gaming addiction has hit your schools. What are some things happening in your cities? Are people addressing this? Because I just see this becoming more and more of a thing that we're going to have to address. That if the first clinic in the UK can show anything, there's a demand for it. Thank you for watching Ed News. Hope you have a great day. I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next episode.